Hey everybody, well, with the way the US sanctions and tariffs keep coming in, I have a feeling that very soon many companies might just start decoupling from the United States. It's really crazy, and recently there have been more than enough sanctions for Chinese companies in the US. So, the New York Times, alongside other news outlets, have just reported that the Biden administration is set to announce new tariffs as high as 100% on Chinese electric vehicles and additional import taxes on other clean energy goods, including semiconductors. At this point, why doesn't the US just ban all EVs and clean energy products, just as some members of the Senate have requested in the USA? Because the 100% tariff seems really exorbitant to me. Now guys, it hasn't even been a week since the US government revoked Intel and Qualcomm's licenses from supplying semiconductors to Huawei. And now here we are again, and we have more and more tariffs on EVs and clean energy products. It feels like just another day at the office for the US Commerce Department. The question is, will this ever stop? Will all the multiple tariffs and sanctions ever stop? I think at this point, the US can just make it clear and public that all Chinese tech companies are banned from the US. So we can all know once and for all, right? Because if yesterday they placed a ban, today another ban, tomorrow another ban. And when most of the top US diplomats visited China, they requested for a level playing field. So what kind of level playing field can we really say is happening right now between the US and China? And how does that affect you and I and the global market? I believe that these new tariffs and sanctions are coming in now to add to a whole lot of others, because the Biden administration has had increased concerns about China's clean energy products like cheap solar panels, batteries, and electric vehicles, which have been flooding the global markets recently. And of course, it has been leading to multiple fears by the US and European markets that China might just undercut their own domestic markets. And I think that is really happening right now. So in another sense, I kind of understand their fear. But does that mean placing more sanctions? First, the European Union launched an investigation into Chinese subsidies on EVs, and at the same time, the US has pushed for more and more sanctions and tariffs, just like the 100% tariff on EVs, which we're expecting right now. Now guys, despite the fact that this is an election year in the United States, it doesn't seem like there'll be any change on the horizon, because when you look at the Democrats and Republicans, no matter the kind of disputes they have, they all agree on one thing, and that is containing China's economic and technical might. Reason why I believe President Biden has kept in place most of the initial tariffs which were imposed by the previous president Donald Trump during his presidency. Now there's so much happening here at this point, and all these sanctions and tariffs has led the Chinese government to respond accordingly. And of course, around the end of this video, I'll tell you what the Chinese government has said regarding most of these tariffs and sanctions that have been imposed time and again. We need to understand that despite all the running dozens of sanctions that have been placed already on Chinese companies, it only seems to keep getting worse by the day. And no matter what China does, no matter how many meetings that they have with the US diplomats, it just can't seem to change. Now, with the huge tariffs that have already been placed on Chinese EV makers like BYD at up to 25% over the years, the Biden administration is now pushing towards 100%. Yes, you heard that right. 100% tariff, meaning if you are in the United States and you want to drive or buy a Chinese EV, you will have to pay about double the price which is paid either in China or in other countries where Chinese EVs are sold. And at this point, I do not think any company can survive in such a hostile market, because they'll just be doing the business at a loss, and consumers wouldn't want to buy at such prices. So with all these multiple tariffs, how will Chinese companies survive in the US? And guys, this is very sad, because now consumers like you and I who might have been interested in buying and trying out some Chinese EV models won't even get a chance to do so due to the huge prices as compared to domestic EV brands. Well, in another sense, I am trying to understand the US government's aim or their point of view, which is to save their domestic industry and to protect American manufacturing. But personally, as a business person myself with a background in business studies, I feel like 100% tariff really seems excessive. But then, Willene, as we all have seen and heard previously, most concerns and reasons given by the US government for imposing all of these exorbitant tariffs and sanctions has been due to the risk of internet-connected Chinese cars, which pose a risk to national security of the United States. Now, there have always been fears that China can use all of these cars to collect data from the United States and spy on US citizens. Could that really be the case? Does that mean Tesla is also spying on Chinese citizens? Because Tesla has always been operating in China for quite a while without serious problems, and even recently Tesla got a new license to be able to operate freely in China. Now, since the start of the Biden administration, there have always been serious debates with back and forth pressure, especially on Chinese mass production of electric vehicles, lithium batteries, and solar panels. And we should all understand that these three sectors are very important for the future of the world. And of course, that is the reason why I believe the United States has been making lots of efforts while investing billions of dollars to start producing all of these products within American borders. But China doesn't seem to be slowing down their process. China just keeps on producing. So this might be one of the main reasons adding the fuel to the fire, which is leading to more tariffs and sanctions for China's clean energy products in the United States. It might not seem fair, but I think they're trying to protect their market. Or is that so? Can the United States play a fair game? Who is to blame? Is it China's overcapacity that is to blame, or the United States undercapacity? Is China overproducing, or the United States is underproducing? I believe that if the United States can invest more finances into these industries, it will definitely be easy to catch up with China rather than investing most of these monies into other countries. Of course, it's for global peace, and that's a really good reason. But then we need to ask this question: doesn't the world need more clean energy products? Because I believe the world isn't just the United States alone. There are many different continents and hundreds of countries around the world that need Chinese products. So I believe all these tariffs might affect these companies, which will in turn affect us, the global consumers. I believe this is one of the reasons why we have been seeing many high-profile visits of US government officials to China, trying to put more pressure on the Chinese government and Chinese companies to limit their production due to the effect that it is having on the world and the global market. Just like Janet Yellen, who visited China last month and demanded for a reduction in overcapacity of Chinese products. And even during Blinken's recent visit to China, which saw him requesting for a fair trade and level playing field for American companies in China, and for China to slow down on their production and of course trade fairly in order for global markets to be able to catch up. But I really do not think that global markets catching up requires more sanctions, because from the moves that I'm seeing right now with the multiple sanctions, I think we might be far from an equal market opportunity for all companies on both sides of the coin. And it for sure doesn't feel like a level playing field. It might seem like a level playing field for the United States, but probably not for Chinese companies. As we all know, this is an election year in the United States, but then there isn't so much hope for all of these multiple sanctions and tariffs that there might be any change in the near future for China, because even the presidential hopeful Donald Trump has said he would escalate his trade war with China if re-elected. So I think even the future seems bleak for the Chinese clean energy companies hoping to enter the United States market anytime soon, because it clearly shows that even if President Biden steps down and Donald Trump gets on the seat of presidency, there will still be no change. Reason why I said earlier that Democrats and Republicans in the United States all have one goal: to contain and control China's might. Now, millennials, when we talk about all of these tariffs on clean energy products from China, the Biden administration also recently looked to raise tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum after accusing the Chinese of selling heavy metal at artificially low prices worldwide, which is giving them a competitive advantage. So when we look at the overall analysis, we can see that these sanctions are not just in one sector, but it's in every single sector of Chinese companies in the United States. And with all this happening, as expected, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through their spokesperson Lin Jian, said these tariffs have severely disrupted normal trade and economic exchanges between China and the United States, which were in violation of the World Trade Organization's rules, and that the US needed to stop politicizing trade issues, while concluding that China will take all necessary measures to defend its rights and interests. And I believe all of these comments are coming due to the multiple sanctions that have been placed by the United States on many different Chinese companies, which of course goes against all the level playing field requested by top diplomats in China. Now, as a matter of fact, millennials, there's so much happening right now in the trade war between China and the United States. And of course, I'll keep bringing to you all the latest updates on this issue right here on this channel and how this trade war affects you and I. Feel free to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated as soon as we have new information for you. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, this is Willene. See you next time.